Everyone, stand for opening remarks from Mr. Engle.
Loving Father, thank you for caring about how our country is run and that we have the right to vote for our politicians and the government. But in the run-up to this general election, there are so many policies to understand and so many different points of view to consider. As we choose who we will vote for, help us not to be cynical about politics. Help us to remember that our vote can make a difference. And help us vote for those people who will protect the poor and the vulnerable. And do all they can to make our nation a place of fairness and peace. Amen. Pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. We have the approval of minutes from our October 19th and October 27th meetings.
There was one thing that needed to be corrected in the minutes, and that was where I asked Mr. Bond if he had gotten the building permit to put the tent up, and it was misstated in the minutes, and so I asked for that correction.
That would be on the October 19th meeting, correct? Okay. Are there any other corrections or comments on the minutes? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Chief Spencer, good evening.
Good evening. Well, good evening, everybody. President Cook, Mayor, council members, it's a pleasure to be here tonight. Hope you can understand me with the mask on. If you can't, I'll take it off. So the first thing I want to apologize is for getting the agenda late to you today. And the stats with the young lady that compiles those stats for me had been out for a while. She returned to work today, and she put them together quickly. So I hope if you haven't had a chance to look at them, they are in your packet. I emailed them to you. As far as the agenda goes, I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm going to go over the personnel situation with you. I think as the elected officials, you need to know where the status is of the police department. We are currently 7 officers short of our authorized strength. Since we last met, we had a resignation from one of our female officers, a 4-year veteran who resigned. So that leaves us with 7. Right now we have 1 in the academy, and recruit Ryan Holt is doing well and is on schedule to graduate on December the 16th. This past week we had 8 applicants come to the police department for the January class, and all 8 of them are moving forward into the background process. Hopefully we'll be able to get, out of a good bunch, we'll get maybe 4. Most of them are good-looking recruits. We don't know how they're going to fare through the whole process. But we have some good-looking applicants anyway. And there's one other gentleman who has almost completed the background investigation. The last hurdle for him is the psychological evaluation, which I think is scheduled for next week. So if we get him to come in and get 3 or 4 or 5 out of this other batch, maybe we can hopefully put 4 or 5 in the academy and start working on that shortfall that we have. Our most recent canine Axe, who's our 4th canine dog with PFC Ashley Bain, is still in training with Maryland State Police, and they're on schedule to graduate in December. And then that will give us 4 canines, 2 full-duty dogs, which means they're patrol duty and drug detection, and the other 2 are just simply drug detection canines. We are doing a lot of testing now as we get into the late fall and winter months. That's a lot of the time for us to do a lot of the mandated training plus all the training we have. We have a couple positions open on our emergency response unit. So we're testing for that, and we're also testing for our negotiation teams, and all of these are impacted, particularly by resignation, so we're trying to fill those spots. I've listed for you the recent events, the bike patrol activities. There's not a lot to list this quarter because there just wasn't much going on. Unfortunately, with COVID, we're not able to get out and do a lot of things that we've done in the past. We are still planning on having our Christmas toy drive So if you know anybody or you'd like to participate in that, then we will be doing that again this year. Let's see, we have the upcoming training on there. And again, I touched on the statistics a little bit. Get a chance to look at them. It's just easy to, if you just divide the quarterly number by 3, it'll get you the quarterly average. And we're pretty much on even par for everything. And I look back for last year, and we're doing really well. And honestly, I have to tell you that I'm very proud of the men and women that work for us at the police department who are working short. They're working in the COVID. There's a lot of consternation out there in the community, in the police department. We had a visit, and so now we understand the impact. We've been following all the guidelines by the CDC and the Talbot County Health Department, and we are at the end of that tunnel, I think, Wednesday. So I am really proud of the men and women that are out there. They're working hard for you. If you look at statistics, they're working shorthanded. We haven't had any complaints of late response for calls for service or any of that thing. And so I'm really proud of the job that they're doing and appreciate everything they do. So that's my report. Well, we do election day, in case you have any questions about that. We have been working with the local election board in the state and with the sheriff's department and everybody to make sure that everything will operate smoothly tomorrow. I'm not going to go into the details of our plan, obviously, but we think we have a good plan working with everybody so that we'll have a safe environment and a location for the workers and for the people that are coming to vote. So if you haven't voted yet, get out there tomorrow and exercise your right.
And Chief,
that's my report.
I saw there was a nice article about you and the St. Michael's chief and the Sheriff Gamble meeting with a group of citizens.
Yeah, we attended a meeting at the BAM Association. I think that was last Monday night. It lasted about 2.5 hours. It was broadcast Zoom and live on Facebook. The Lieutenant Governor was a participant. And I think it was a good conversation by all. And like I said, we talked about 2.5 hours. We talked about a lot of things. Mostly it was being driven by the children and what we can do to impact their lives and help them, in today's society, along with COVID and being home and learning how to learn virtually instead of being in class. As you know, it has a lot of impact on the kids and adults that are used to being out and about and now are not. And I looked at the statistics. I thought that, I've been reading a lot of them that are, mental evaluations, emergency petitions, the calls were up, but looking at the statistics, they're not. They're running about par on course for this time last year. So.
Anyone have any questions for?
No questions, but I just want to say I had several residents in Matthewstown Run were appreciative of the fact that they saw you guys had a high presence there Halloween, and they were really appreciative of that. And fire department was very appreciative of you guys' help with the 5K last weekend. So. Yeah,
I didn't mention Halloween, but as in the last probably 6, 7, 8 years, the trick-or-treating nationwide, at least the local area I know can speak to, has been down. But those that are out and about are well behaved, and we haven't had any problems or any issues or major complaints. And everybody that wanted to go trick-or-treating made it out, had a good time, and made it home safely.
I also have had really positive feedback from folks in Easton Village about the patrols, and thank you and Lieutenant Pugh for everything you're doing. I know it's tough, but the visibility driving through these residential neighborhoods is very much appreciated.
Well, again, the thanks doesn't go to me, it goes to the men and women that are out there every day. We have high quality police officers in the police department, and I say that without any reservation. And that's the reason why all these other state agencies, county agencies, and local agencies are fishing in our pond. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you go? If you're going to go hire somebody, you want to hire the best. You don't want to hire somebody else's problem. And there's another local police department that contacted us Friday that wants to come in this week and is doing a background investigation on one of our current officers. So I don't know what's going to happen with that either. But while I don't want to see any of our officers leave, I think it's a compliment when other agencies are coming looking to hire your people. It means that you've got good people.
We need to find ways of keeping them then.
Well, we're trying, and I have talked to you in the past, there are things out there that we've tried to be competitive with, and poor Mayor and Mr. Richardson and I beat him over the head all the time, you know, talking about it. And I know there's a limited amount of funds out there, but sometimes you have to pay the going price for the service, no matter if it's police or if it's a doctor or lawyers or nurses or carpenters or electricians or whatever the trade is, whatever the market value bears. Certainly, there's no pro athlete that's worth the money that they're making. But they're making the money because that's what the market bears. So if you want to have a competitive team or a good team, you got to pay what's going on. And the town of Easton does offer a very attractive employee benefit packet. Where we suffer is not having the state disability, LEOPS plan, retirement plan, and take-home cars. Those are the two things that I hear every time when we talk to potential applicants who are choosing somebody else over us. It's not necessarily the pay, although they'd like to have more pay, but the town of Easton pay is competitive, but those are the two things that always come back. And I know they cost money. You know, I've talked to the mayor and to Don to buy every police officer a police car is about $1.6 million. But maybe we say, okay, we can't give you a car, but maybe we give you $3,000 a year to make up for the cost for you driving back and forth to work. You know, so just, I can't do 48, but I can do 50 pretty quick. So 50 times 3 is $150,000. That's a long ways from $1.6 million. You know, so maybe we need to start thinking, you know, outside the box. You know, I know that we just changed our retirement plan, and I know that the rest of the town employees hate to hear the chief stand up here saying, you just got a new retirement plan, why do you want a new one? I have to have what I have to have to compete and to keep these people. And you've seen what the sheriff's been putting out in the paper, you've seen what's on the ballot, and it's the same thing with us. When you lose these employees, it's a lot of money. It's a whole lot cheaper to keep them than it is to lose them and then take 18 months to hire somebody, the cost of doing that, and put them out on the street again. So I don't know if we need to take a look at our retirement plan, and maybe we can't pay the state LEOPS, but maybe we can mimic it. So anyway.
I thought we were close on that. We were closer.
We were closer, but we're not there yet. So anyway, you didn't hear me come to cry about money, but
Chief,
and if you'd like to sit down and talk about it, I'd be more than glad to sit down with you and discuss ways we can keep our people here, because we need to keep our good people here.
Now, you rotate police cars, whatever, 3 years?
Yes.
If they were assigned to an officer, what do you think you could get out of them? 6?
At
7,
least.
You get closer to 10.
Yeah.
10?
Yeah, because they would only, you know, when they're driving to and from home and into work, and obviously, right now our cars are being run 24/7, patrol cars. So they never rest. They get burnt out. So if a person has a car, it's not going to be running 24/7. So hopefully you'll have less mechanical miles. You know, going to be less miles driven on it, and that person's going to take care of it. You know, I don't want to stand here and tell you that my guys don't care about their cars because they ride in them every day, but I suspect they don't drive them as well as they do their own personal car that they're paying for. So having a car that you're responsible for, that you drive every day, is going to help it, you know, maintain that cost. But that's, you know, it's a lot of money, 1.6. And then right now we're buying about 3 cars a year to maintain that fleet. And I didn't come prepared to talk about this, so please don't hold me to all these facts. But you know, you'd have to probably buy about 10 cars every year, 8 to 10 cars to keep the fleet turning over. I know that Lieutenant Robar looked at the feasibility. I didn't bring it with me tonight, but he has a lot of those numbers. But if we can't buy cars, you know, hey, maybe we give them a stipend. The one guy I know that's thinking about leaving is, you know, said, well, you know, they're going to pay me the same amount of money. They're going to give me a take-home car, and I save $60 a week in gas driving back and forth to work. Well, $60 a week times 50 is $3,000.
So, Chief, out of the recruits that you have, how many of them are African American?
I haven't seen them, Mr. Davis, and we don't ask that on our application. I know that one gentleman is African American and he's an Army veteran, but I'm not sure about the others.
Okay. Because I talked to a female that was coming to apply, and I was just kind of inquisitive, if you will.
I don't know if she did or not. If you give me the name, I could find out, but I don't have the with me tonight.
I'll talk to you later.
Hey, you know, anybody out there recruiting, I tell my guys, you're our best recruiter. You know, somebody that's there and working, you know, is more believable than reading something on Facebook, you know, or advertising in the newspaper, or anywhere on social media.
Any other questions for Chief Spencer tonight? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor Willie?
I have a couple of things, Mrs. Cook. We were notified today that the Christmas parade for this year has been canceled. Look for it next year, but because of the pandemic and the COVID-19 issues and all, it was deemed best not to have that. And they're looking at the other activities around the holiday season that normally would be held to see whether they can be held this year. Picture with Santa, the dinners, that kind of stuff. Also in your packet, you should have had a memo of 2 reappointments, one to the HDC of Kevin Gibson for a 2-year term, and the other to Planning and Zoning for a 5-year term for Talbot Bone, and that was Talbot is currently the chairman of that. So if you're a mind to, I'd like to get those reappointments approved so we can get on with life.
Mayor, I'm sorry, those weren't in our packets this time.
Pardon?
They were not in our packets, those reappointments.
It wasn't, it was just
Oh.
something you were gonna bring up.
Okay, that is the first time I'm telling you then. Talbot Bone and Kevin Gibson. Both reappointments.
Okay. Talbot is they're both for the planning commission, you said?
I can't understand you with that mask on.
HD, the Historic District Commission.
Tell's
There's
not on
one,
there.
and Talbot owns the Planning Commission.
Planning commission, okay.
Let me go through this again. Kevin Gibson, reappointment to the HDC for 2 years.
And Talbot.
Talbot Bone, reappointment to Planning and Zoning for 5 years, and he's currently the chairman.
Got it. All right.
I'd make a motion for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And you also should have received a memo from the American Legion Post 77 for help with their building permit fees for this year. So I sent that to the council to get your opinions.
So this would be waiving the fees for the project that we heard at our last meeting they came to present.
And that's for how many dollars, Mayor?
3,000.
3,000. And we've done this before, have we not, for other
Yes and no.
not-for-profit organizations?
Yes and no.
Okay, just depends on the organization.
I make a motion, we accept the proposal.
Okay.
Second.
All right, that's moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mayor.
That's it for me.
Wonderful. Mr. Richardson?
Good evening, President Cook, Council. One item specifically on your agenda this evening from the Easton's Lyon Club, requesting the use of town-owned property between the Amish Market and the VFW in Easton on Glebe Road. They do an annual Christmas tree drive there, which benefits local charities and specifically a eyeglass assistance program for people of need in Talbot County. So they have requested the use of that property starting on November 28th through the holiday season. This is a request that annually has been completed and approved by the town of Easton for quite a long time.
I know the Lions Club, this is one of their big fundraisers. They also used to do waterfowl, which is, obviously they weren't able to do this year, so this will be probably their biggest fundraiser of the year.
They do have a second request internal to this to have Easton Utilities assist them with some electricity to that site. That also is typically done. I will reach out to Easton Utilities to make sure they're aware once we receive your direction.
Is there any other questions about the Lions request?
One quick question, do we require insurance on their part?
We have not typically required insurance certificate on their part.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Separately, and on a separate topic, earlier today at 3 o'clock, there was a ribbon cutting for the EV charging station at Burrs Lane. I know that many of you attended. I want to thank you for that. This is a project that was collaborative between the town of Easton and Easton Utilities to install 4 charging stations. They were before you just a little over a year ago for that project request. It is now complete, and through the hard work and dedication of our Public Works Department, the Easton Utilities Electric Department, and their Velocity Department, that project is now complete, including the installation of a kiosk that is one of the favorites installed in the town of Easton by the mayor.
Yeah, the work that Public Works did is beautiful, the brickwork and everything and paving, and obviously the charging stations are a great bonus for downtown Easton. Their destination charges, as was mentioned today, so hopefully it'll attract people into downtown to charge their vehicles and shop at the shops.
And the most important note on that topic is that they are currently free of charge.
Yeah, free.
The Eastern Utilities will be monitoring the use and the amount of electric use and the demand for their use, and would be reporting back to us moving forward. But for now, it's free electricity. Last, I just need to remind our residents and community that it's leaf collection time. The Public Works Department has requested that the residents put that where they have their bulk collection placed, and to not put it in the streets and the gutters. For example, the heavy rains that we experienced this weekend resulted in a lot of additional flooding because there was leaf and debris placed into the streets, which disturbed our storm drainage system. So there was a little bit of extra work and extra effort over the weekend due to some localized flooding.
We've been reminding residents that for years. We'll have to come up with another way of getting our message across. Maybe if we can all tell our neighbors not to put their leaves in the street. Any other questions for Don?
Mr. Richardson, I was just hoping that maybe next meeting, we could set aside some time to discuss the changes to the time plan.
Sure. I mean, we definitely are working on adjusting the employee handbook, but specifically that was adjusted as a result of the impacts of COVID-19 under our continuity of operations plan.
Right.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Van Ember?
I do have an update on the Glenwood Avenue, but I can wait till we get to that item on the agenda. So
Okay.
I don't have anything for this point.
Okay. Any questions for Sharon? All right, next we have Mr. Owen Bailey from the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy.
Thank you, Council, for giving me this podium to introduce our Open Streets campaign. So, as you said, my name is Owen Bailey. I'm the Town Projects Manager for the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. And this presentation came at the sort of response to the COVID-19 pandemic, seeing what other cities and towns across the United States were doing to help alleviate both pedestrian congestion on sidewalks and streets, and also to help create more business opportunities for local businesses. It's also a new direction that the Center for Towns Department is taking at the Eastern Shore Land Conservancy. Next slide. So, or go back one. This year, ESLC adopted a new strategic plan for 2025 with a focus on creating more places for people, to create more means to connect people with parks and trails, to help create more healthy outdoor living, more outdoor recreation, and just more access to public lands. We see a tremendous value in connecting people to the beautiful landscapes we have on the Eastern Shore, but we also see that there are a lot of residents who don't have this kind of access for many different means. ESLC is no stranger to towns projects. We've done projects here in Easton, in Chestertown, Cambridge, St. Michael's, East Newmarket. And as a land trust, we see how land uses shape a place. And after all, streets are public land. Next slide. So this fits in with ESLC's Delmarva Oasis campaign, which we seek to preserve 50% of the Delmarva Oasis by the year 2030. And the Center for Towns is playing a role in that by helping to connect people with in the protected lands. That's been something that's come up in our outreach, that yes, we have preserved all these beautiful lands, we've created all these beautiful parks across the Eastern Shore, but much of our population does not have easy access to these parks and trails. So we're looking to help create that access by walking and biking. Walking, after all, is the only free form of transportation, and biking is an easily affordable means that many can enjoy in the community. Next slide. So what are open streets? When the COVID pandemic hit last winter, we saw a huge decrease in the amount of automobile trips being taken across the country, and a huge increase in the amount of people going outside to walk down sidewalks and trails for physical activity and recreation. The decrease in traffic and the increase in pedestrians saw an increase in pedestrian accidents and pedestrian deaths, even at a time when car accidents overall were on a decrease. This situation was created by simply the fact that there weren't enough places for people to safely walk. Many of our communities do not have sidewalks all across the Eastern Shore and across the United States, and many communities have sidewalks that are too narrow. By working to reallocate some of the street space for pedestrians, we can create a safe place for people to walk so they can have that outdoor recreation and physical activity. And that space can be for both pedestrians and cyclists. And the primary means of this is by slowing down traffic on streets to make them more multifunctional or multimodal. Next slide, please. So why are our streets and sidewalks not enough? As you see from this picture on the right, most sidewalks are about 3 or 4 feet wide. And if you're trying to practice physical distancing or social distancing, you can't on a sidewalk. Somebody has to either take a chance and walk right past somebody, or they have to walk out in the street, as you'll see with the family walking on the slide on the left. Sorry, lost my place. So the reason why this is because we've built this world mostly for cars, not for pedestrians. Since the end of World War II, most of our development plan in the United States has been focused around the car as the primary means of transportation. And as you see in most communities built in the 1950s and 1970s, they don't have sidewalks. And communities since then have sidewalks that are narrow, like this example. This then forced people to walk out into the streets. And as I said, this has also increased the traffic accidents across the United States. Next slide. Was there one more? Was it? Or go back to one more. I'm sorry. No. Next slide, please. Sorry. In May this year, Governor Hogan issued a statement encouraging jurisdictions to create more outdoor space for seating for restaurants as a way to help boost restaurant businesses, understanding that they couldn't have indoor seating from the health effects. As you all recognize, this is Washington Street. Easton did a great job in creating outdoor space for the restaurants. And from what I understand, it was somewhat of a success. Next slide. In Chestertown, they moved their farmers market to High Street, blocking off traffic on 2 blocks of their main street, which has created a very successful farmers market there every Saturday. And it sort of also gives a feeling of sort of a festival. Like Easton, Chestertown's canceled all of its festivals. It's even canceled the Tea Party Festival in 2021. And by having this downtown, it's created that sort of festival feeling where people are out shopping, buying produce, buying gifts, but without the huge crowds that you see, the 10, 20,000 people at a large event. Instead, you have a nice event that residents can enjoy on the weekends. Next slide. And then in Cambridge, you also see that they've taken away parking in some of their areas, creating these little parklets. This is on Poplar Street. They've also done some on Race Street. And they've seen some success in boosting or helping their businesses downtown, especially the restaurants. And they've received a lot, and I think all three examples have received a lot of feedback into what has worked and to what hasn't worked. Next slide, please. So why open streets? As I stated before, simply there is not that much space for people when you walk out your front door. There's not that many sidewalks, there's not that many safe places for people to get physical recreation or outdoor activity, or those spaces are not easily accessible. We saw throughout the US that communities that didn't have enough parks, they saw more people flocking to what few parks they had, which then created a danger of having overpopulation, overcrowding in parks. So they fixed that by creating small parklets or pop-up parks or pocket parks in neighborhoods so that everybody had an easy and safe place to walk to enjoy being outside. The open streets is an easy solution to a growing problem. This problem was addressed last month during the Walktober campaign that the Maryland Department of Transportation created with the help of Maryland Department of Planning, Department of Health, AARP, and the Center for Disease Control. Secretary Slater stated at the introduction of these webinars that one pedestrian in the United States is killed every hour and a half. It's about 6,000 people a year are killed by automobile accidents. More Americans have died in traffic accidents than in all of our wars combined, and more Americans have died since the year 2000 in traffic accidents than died in both world wars. This has shown that our streets are extremely dangerous and also underproductive for both cyclists and pedestrians. Fewer kids today ride their bikes than at any other time in American history since the invention of the bicycle. And this is a continuing trend as obesity problems increase. That's part of the reason why the Maryland Department of Health was involved in the Walktober series, showcasing how the lack of safe places for people to walk is having a negative effect on younger generations, and that by increasing the availability or easy access for outdoor space for younger kids, that could help alleviate some of those problems. The AARP is involved because they recognize that the average American lives 7 to 10 years beyond their ability to drive a car. And so by building an auto-centric transportation model, we are taking away a freedom from that age group. And by creating more open streets, we can help alleviate that problem. In short, we have just become too auto-dependent. Next slide. So as I said, since the end of World War II, most of the American development model has been focused around the cars as a primary means of transportation. Everywhere in the United States is guilty of this. The consequences have been amplified by the pandemic as more people are out walking and biking. And this also created a system where in order to operate in society, you have to have a ticket. And that ticket is a car. And that car is expensive because you have to pay car payments, insurance, gas for your car, registration, maintenance and upkeep. And for lower income families, it can be incredibly stressful to rely on a car as your primary means of transportation and not have the ability to walk or to bike toward nearby goods and services. Next slide. So this is my neighborhood in Chestertown. That's my daughter and my dog, and you can see my wife's hand on the far side. And this is our street. Our house is just a little ways up. And you'll notice that there are no sidewalks. This is a 1970s development. Wide streets, easy for drivers to see, but also very easy for drivers to speed down that street. There's no posted speed limit, which I believe in the state of Maryland means that the speed limit on this street is 30 miles an hour. In order to walk anywhere, my wife and I have to go down this street. And with no sidewalks, it means that we are taking a risk wherever we go. But this street could be anywhere USA. It's not just Chestertown. By creating some kind of pedestrian walkway would make the street safer, but we all know that sidewalks are incredibly expensive. I don't think Chestertown's ever going to have the hundreds of thousands of dollars to put a sidewalk down this quiet street with not that many people living on it. but it nevertheless is still a dangerous place to walk, even though we have to walk there. So that's the why. Next slide. The how. How do we create open streets? Well, we all have ideas, I'm sure, as to how we would make our streets and neighborhoods function just a little bit better. I've told you a little bit about my neighborhood. Examples are painting crosswalks more vibrant colors so that it's easier for cars to see them and safer for people to cross them. It's putting in sidewalks in neighborhoods that need sidewalks, or putting in traffic calming measures around dangerous bends on roads, or trying to make intersections more safer for cars and pedestrians to cross. The point is that residents know their neighborhoods better than anyone else. I know my neighborhood, but I'm not going to pretend like I know neighborhoods here in Easton or in Cambridge or in St. Michael's. The residents know them, and we should be asking them questions as to how their streets can be improved. Next slide. So ideas range widely. You can, in this example, put in signs that say no through traffic on one end of the entrance of a street. That forces cars to drive slowly around it, and they understand that this is a residential neighborhood, and there are going to be people out biking with their kids. In streets that are, and this will work in streets that with sidewalks that are too narrow or no sidewalks at all. And again, the residents will know their streets better than anyone. Next slide. Same goes with businesses. Businesses know what would help their business. Not every business wants to have a parklet in front. I have a friend who owns a restaurant in Chestertown, and I asked him the question about parklets, if he would want one in front of his restaurant. And he said, no. I have a very productive takeout business. It's working well. I don't need to have outdoor seating. Maybe stopping or blocking off 2 parking spaces so we could have easier pickup for our customers, but that's not for us. But right down the street, the kitchen in Chestertown, they made use of the street by having these alfresco nights in Chestertown. They were a huge success, and they helped this business get through the summertime. I don't know what they'll do with the winter when outdoor seating is not available, but I think they are looking forward to continuing this next year, even after COVID, because it's created such a nice atmosphere, and it's given an alternative use to the road at a time when there aren't many cars driving down it. Next slide, please. So a walk audit is a tool that we can use to figure out what we can do to help our streets by gathering neighborhood associations, residents, nonprofits, business owners, and conducting a planned walk down a set path. We can see what parts of the sidewalk and the road, the crosswalks work, and which ones don't. We can see which areas are dangerous and which areas do feel safe and comfortable. We can see what makes them safe and comfortable to walk. And this is a tool that we can use even during a pandemic, because it still allows for outdoor meetings, just maybe fewer people than there are in this picture. Next slide, please. Another tool we can use is simply to observe. I love this example on the right, the Ohio State University. They put all of their paths in their quad based off of desired paths that students cut through the grass over decades. And instead of telling students to don't walk here, don't do this, they said, well, let's just put a path since this seems to be where people like to walk. Same with the example on the left. You can see where the design wanted people to go, but oftentimes when you put in a design, you see people don't use it the way it was intended, and that people want to use the space how they want to use it. And it's important to take that kind of feedback and apply it to projects. Next slide. So how do we build open streets? The key is to start small. Think about the lowest hanging fruit, the cheapest, most inexpensive, easiest project you can do, and do that one first. And then do the next one, and the next one. By giving yourself these small projects, you can both have these accomplishments, get feedback, and apply that feedback to future projects. I like to use the example of a thermostat. If you can imagine heat as a car-focused transportation system and cold as a pedestrian-focused transportation system. Most of the United States is turned up to about 90 degrees. It's too hot, too many cars, or too much dependency on cars. But we can't just crank that dial back to 72, because we don't know what the outcome would be. It should be slowly dialed back to whatever temperature the community deems appropriate. Some neighborhoods, some towns may want it to be 78 degrees to have more focus on cars. Some may want it to be down towards 64 degrees. It all depends on what the community wants. Not every every town is the same, but every town is also different. It's made up by the history, the people, the communities, the nonprofits, the businesses, what have you. Next slide. So like I said, start small. Do what you know how to do. Easton knows how to put on a great waterfowl festival where you do block off the streets for a set weekend and you have pedestrian boulevards down Washington Street, down Harrison Street. That's a great example. Another example is whenever you have a construction site, or whenever you're working on a sidewalk or a driveway or a house, you tend to block off a section of the road for a very specific period of time, and cars have to move around it. That's something that we're all used to seeing, that kind of traffic alteration. Next slide, please. So how do we do this? So demonstration project seems to be the most effective way. For those who don't know, a demonstration project is really like a pilot project or a temporary project. It's somebody going to the town to say, I'd like to put a temporary sidewalk in front of my house using traffic cones, hay bales. I've seen recycled tires that have been spray painted bright colors so drivers can see them. And they set up where they would want the sidewalk to be, and they put it out there for a weekend, or even just an afternoon, or maybe a whole week, depending on the amount of traffic and how much data they want to collect. And they can test this idea, okay, how would a sidewalk work on this side of the street? If it works, then they can maybe look to improve it. You'll see here the steady progression, the demonstration, the pilot. The demonstration starts with just spray painting a bike symbol on the road. The pilot project, you begin to put up some traffic dividers to give the bike lane some protection. If that continues to work, then you can put up parking bumpers and you can make it more permanent, and then gradually build your way up to the big capital project. And the nice thing about this is you learn this feedback, you get this information every step along the way as you invest more and more money into a project. But early on, if you see a project isn't working, you just abandon it, pull up the stuff, and go home and know that that didn't work, and we can go on to the next project. Next slide. Another thing to do is observe. This is another picture from my neighborhood. This is a dangerous bend that cars tend to fly around. And it's hard for pedestrians because they can't see. If you're the image on the left, if you're walking inside the road, cars can't see you as you're walking around that bend, and saying you can't see a car. But this one weekend in August, this tree branch fell down, and I noticed, and my neighbors noticed in this weekend, that while that tree branch was there, this section of road was safer to walk, because cars, as they approached this tree branch, they saw it was in the way, they slowed down, moved over into the lane, and went around it. So what if we made that a little more permanent? I understand a tree branch is not a good traffic device. What if you put up a planter, or some hay bales, some signage to explain what this is, test it out for a weekend or a week, and see how it works. If it's too dangerous, you broke it down. If it works, then the town can invest more money into making it permanent. And you make this neighborhood a better, easier place to live in the process with a very inexpensive, very easy to implement mechanic. These pilot demonstration projects have been adopted all over the country by the Minnesota Department of Transportation. AARP puts out a handbook as to how these can help improve walkability in neighborhoods with older residents, and many other national organizations. The key word is incremental. Test, feedback. Slowly build your way there. You can put a lot of money, energy, and planning for a complete redesign of a street, a complete street, but a lot of times you don't see the pitfalls along the way until after you've put in an expensive project, and at that point you don't have the capital or the room to maneuver, to alter it or change it. You're stuck with what you have. Demonstration projects allow you to get that information along the way. Next slide. So what have towns learned? That these changes, most of the time, they work, and a lot of towns have begun to make them permanent. There are many cities in the West Coast and up in New York that have put in temporary bike lanes to help connect residential neighborhoods with downtown areas. usually taking up traffic along one side of the, or parking along one side of the street. They tested it for a week and it worked, and they tested it for a month and it worked. And after this testing all summer long, they're going to make these bike lanes permanent. Let's see. It's an inexpensive and easy way to adapt to unforeseen consequences. During the Walktober series, I learned that there are a lot of people across the U.S. who are looking into these kinds of demonstration projects to make their communities more walkable, understanding how important it is to have a walkable community. Not only is it better for your residents, it's better for your value per acre, it's better for your real estate market. The benefits are across the board. And from talking with people in Chestertown, Easton, and Cambridge, I've learned that there's a lot of interest out there. There's a lot of people who have ideas as to how they would make it safer for them to walk to a park, or to walk to their favorite restaurant downtown, or to walk or have their kids be able to walk safely to school. Everyone has ideas. I'm sure there are ideas in this very room, and this is just a means that we can implement those ideas. So that's my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. You had some great ideas. I know that the town shares a lot of your concerns. We've been working over the years, whether it's on pedestrian-friendly signals at some of our troublesome intersections, extending our rail to trail. That's a big project that we hope to complete.
It's a great rail trail you have. I was walking it last week.
Yeah, and hopefully that'll be completed fully next year.
Yeah.
You know, we extend our sidewalks. I know our Public Works Department usually walks every foot of sidewalk, monitoring the rise level to grind down the lift areas in some places. So
Yeah, when the roots are
we
coming
do
through.
share your concerns with making Easton pedestrian friendly, that's for sure. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bailey, or?
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, we have a public hearing for ordinance number 755, an ordinance of the town of Easton authorizing the town of Easton to accept a portion of Glenwood Avenue from Talbot County.
This ordinance was introduced last time. This area was annexed several years ago, but while it's within the town limits, the county still owns it. So in order to allow the county to transfer this to the town, both the town council as well as the county council have to authorize it. The county council introduced a resolution at their last meeting, and they scheduled a public hearing for December 10th. So presumably they could vote that night. So theirs would be effective at that time, and then the ordinance 755 is the way for the town to authorize the transfer. So there's the exhibit that shows the right-of-way down Glenwood Street, basically to where the pedestrian bridge now is, from the bypass down to the water. Happy to answer any questions. Don't think there's anyone in the public to comment.
No? Does anyone have any questions for Sharon or on ordinance number 755? If not, I'll close the public hearing. And since it's the second week, ordinance 755 is eligible for a vote, correct?
It is.
Make a motion for approval, ordinance number 755.
Second.
All right. Mrs. Ruff?
Mr. Silverstein?
Aye.
Mr. Abbatiello?
Yes.
Mr. Engle?
Yes.
Reverend Davis?
Yes.
President Cook?
Yes. We have invoices totaling $2,024,282.79.
Make a motion to pay them.
Okay.
Second.
We have a move and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any comments from the public?
Madam President and Council, we did receive a Facebook question specifically regarding the signs that are, the electronic signs posted in the farmer's market, and a request to take those down during the week, if possible, as they are causing confusion to visitors. As that person cannot interact, I did have a conversation of sorts with them and asked if folding the signs down as they are at this particular moment would be satisfactory in that regard. Their concern is that we really don't need to post "this lot is closed" on Saturdays all week, because it causes some confusion. That is the question, and I put that to you. I'll do my best.
Just so I'm clear, so we have no parking in the lots on Saturday sign that's up throughout the week, and they want it down during the week?
Yes, that is the request.
We can make adjustments to how that sign is displayed during the weekdays.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I apologize because this is technology at its best. And the parties watching. So the request is not for the electronic signs. I apologize for the confusion there. But the metal signs that say no parking on Saturdays. That creates, I know, another issue that you'll certainly have to think about. But if you have any comments, I can certainly take them back, or you can let us know that. That is the comment.
We certainly can look into that question and that concern. Those signs are there to inform residents and users of that parking lot that that lot is closed on Saturdays for the purpose of the farmer's market. Similarly, there are signs that are posted in some of our parking lots now that close them for street sweeping opportunities on certain days of the week. So I think it's a functionality part of parking lots. We can certainly explore the
I can get back to that party.
Mr. Richardson, if I'm not mistaken, those signs have been up many years before we put the electronic signs up.
They have. I think they serve a purpose.
Okay, thank you. And I think one of the reasons is because people were getting tickets on Saturdays and then coming back and complaining that there was no signage. Just for clarification.
All right. Items by member of the council, Mr. Silverstein.
I just want to thank everybody who had special programs for the children for Halloween, and for all those individuals who followed the safety guidelines so that children in our community could still celebrate Halloween.
Just want to thank the Talbot Board of Elections. I think the early voting so far has run very smoothly here in town, and just a reminder to tomorrow's election day, get out and vote. So, thank you.
Hi, Minnie.
I want to make sure everybody get out and vote, and just please be careful because the deers are running everywhere. So I want you to be safe and watch those deers coming from the side of the road.
I will second, third, or fourth the motion to please get out and vote tomorrow. If I have nothing else to bring before the council, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.